Hey guys, welcome back to the internet. So thanks to everybody who came out to my second live stream that we just had. I honestly don't really know how long I'm going to keep doing those. They're kind of just fun to come and hang out and talk to people. But unless I find some way of making it more interesting, I don't think I'll keep doing it for too long. But we still have plenty of stories for the foreseeable future, so let's start out with Karen wants her ID checked. So I work in a casual fine dining restaurant in a downtown area. Prices aren't crazy high, but high enough that we don't get a super young crowd. I would say the average age of our dinner crowd is 30 to 60, although it varies more on the weekend. I only include this information so you understand why I didn't initially ask for identification, even though you should always check. Thursday night, a table of 4 comes in for early dinner. 2 Karens and their daughters. Excellent. I'm ready for them to split entrees and tip me 15%. Not the worst type of table, if we're being honest, but nonetheless. They order a pitcher of sangria, and I tell them that I'll be right back with that for them, to which the mama Karen says to me, "You really aren't going to check these girls' IDs? Her birthday was just last month. Aren't you supposed to check anyone who looks under 40? She's correct, of course, that I should have asked for identification, even though the girls were with their mothers, and I was being lazy by assuming they were of age, since their moms did not stop them from ordering drinks. I agree with her, and then tell her that I was actually supposed to check all IDs, regardless of age, and proceed to look at all 4 of the ladies' IDs. Unfortunately for Mama Karen, her birthday was a few days previously and her ID had expired. In the state of Michigan, it is illegal to serve alcohol to anyone with an expired ID, regardless of age. So I had to deny Mama Karen a glass for the sangria, while her daughter and friends shared a pitcher. I didn't really have malicious intentions. However, it felt good that Karen's antics backfired on her. I mean, I don't really understand why anyone would be excited about having to show their ID. I guess just like, you just turned 21 and you're just so excited to be able to prove it. Well, for whatever reason, Reddit was really slow today, so I was only able to pull a handful of pretty small stories. I applied for a janitorial job for a large apartment complex. So the interview was a group interview, which I thought was weird, but whatever. I needed a job and some extra cash while I was finishing up my degree. The interviewers went on and on about the goal-oriented and top-level characteristics people needed to have to excel at this open position. They said something along the lines of, "The people we decide to go with will be lucky to be a part of this team." I sat quietly during the entire group interview, which was basically them stating they would only consider the best people for the job. It was cleaning up, vacuuming, picking up trash, washing windows type of job. To be honest, it was kind of a joke. They made it sound so special and proud to be chosen. Then someone asked a question about buying equipment and supplies. I immediately thought the guy was an idiot for asking who would be responsible for buying it. Obviously, I thought that it would be provided by the apartment complex, since they were hiring janitors. Oh man, was I wrong. They let it slip that they would not be providing any of the cleaning supplies, or vacuums, or anything. All that cost was supposed to be picked up by the specially chosen employee, without reimbursement. I walked out of the room at that point. They ended up calling me for the job, 3 times. I had to explain each time that I wasn't picking up the bill to buy cleaning supplies for a minimum wage position. No thanks, and good luck finding a sap to work for you. You know, I've turned down jobs after interviews, but I've never had people repeatedly call me, so you could tell they are pretty desperate to find an employee. And maybe it isn't so lucky to be chosen for a job like that. I'm calling my lawyer. So I was a front desk supervisor at a hotel connected to the airport, which was pure chaos. We had a guest, let's call her Miss Hicks, who made a reservation at our hotel due to a canceled flight. She immediately went to the bar and had the time of her life. She was in her early 20s and very attractive. She ended up spending the night in someone else's room. She lost her credit card at the bar, and when she discovered that she lost it, she charged the $761 tab from the bar to her room. The credit card on file was declining. So the following morning, she came down to the front desk and asked if anyone returned a credit card with her name on it. I said, "Yes, of course, Miss Hicks. We would need you to provide a method of payment for your outstanding charge, because your credit card on file has declined." She was confused and said that a bellman that was at her room told her that all of her charges were taken care of. What, really? I explained to her that we need a method of payment, and that there were other options, such as credit card authorization from relative or a friend, that we can use to settle the account. Well, Miss Hicks reached over to her bag, acting like she was grabbing her cell phone, and instead she grabbed her bags and started to run towards the airport. I immediately sprinted after her and had to duck under security lines and push people out of the way to notify someone from airport security or the airport police to notice what was going on. Once I was able to get security, they searched for her and found her hiding in the bathrooms. And once the police threatened her with a taser, she went with the police back to the hotel to pay for the outstanding balance. At first, Miss Hicks swore up and down that she never drank at our bar, and she never stayed at our hotel. So then I showed her the tapes of her clearly making a reservation and going to the bar. She immediately tells us to stop playing the security tapes, and said that what we were doing was illegal, and proceeded to call what she claimed to be was her lawyer. When the caller on the other end responded, Miss Hicks responds, "Hey mommy, I need your help." The entire time I could hear her mom asking, "If you didn't make a reservation, then where did you stay last night?" Which seems like a lofty explanation. The story ends with their mother paying the tab and Miss Hicks being escorted out by police. And this happened all before lunchtime. You know, I really have to wonder how somebody charges up $761 in one night. But honestly, knowing how much hotels charge for some crap, it really doesn't surprise me too much. My wife and I had to explain to the neighbor that our dog is part of our family, and no, they can't just have him. So a little over a year ago, when my neighbor moved into the townhouse next to us, and things seemed great. Their kids were nice, and overall seemed like they were part of a loving, normal home. They were quirky, but nice people who were always willing to help. From installing a screen door, to enjoying a beer, and a decent conversation about home improvement. One day, red flags started popping up. Halloween came a few months after they moved in, and we could hear all kinds of banging and pounding coming from the side of the house they were attached to. We thought it was just the kids playing and having fun, until the father called me crying on the phone about how he was so angry they didn't get invited to a big party at the next house over. The owner of that house has a policy with all the neighbors. If my garage door is open, feel free to stop in and join us. You are always invited. A few weeks later, their kids got the idea that our dog should have sleepovers with them, and started asking to walk him sometimes. Which, at first, we thought was cute, and it was. Until one day, the kids were asking about having a doggy sleepover once in a while. Their mother pulled me away from my wife, and said that it was really unfair that we get to have our dog all week long, and that they have to build their schedule to see him around our lives, and when we were home. I really had no clue what to say, but then she doubled down, insisting that their family should have him on weekends because I work shift work and get to see him all week long as much as I want. Our relationship with them ended after we caught one of their kids scratching our cars accidentally, and they told us to call the police when we tried letting them know what happened. We didn't want money or for it to be fixed, we just wanted their kids to be more careful. Well, that story was just kinda all over the place. I can't believe you wouldn't just let them have your dog on the weekends. I mean, come on, pets are just public property. Hey, come look at this. So about 25 years ago, my mother had to have an operation on her stomach. They kept her very doped up. One day, in this drugged state, she overheard the people outside her room talking about boring surgery on boring patients. She thought they were talking about her, so she decided not to be boring. Her stomach was stapled shut, and the staples were not up against her skin at the very top. She called me asking for some very specific things. I thought she was going to mend someone's coat, or scrubs, or something. She's amazing with a needle and thread, and it was not uncommon for her to want to fix something for you, and generally it was very fast repair. Nope. So I get there with the box of supplies. If she finds one person to mend for, others always follow. I did wonder why she wanted a selection of my beads and fancy shaped buttons, but whatever. She grabbed the box and started lifting up her hospital gown. She put beads and buttons on every single staple. I tried to stop her, but that wasn't possible. Rounds were shortly after she was done, and I had called my father to come down for them. It was too funny to exclude him. He showed up at the hospital just before the doctors got to our rooms. As usual at that time, I had to go outside to wait, but my dad was in the room. A minute or two after the doctors go in, I hear this loud laughter. Then one of the junior doctors runs out and calls every doctor in the hospital to, "Come look at this, we're in room X." They laugh, but then they ask her why she sewed buttons and beads on her staples. She responded with, "I heard two people talking about boring patients with boring surgery. I didn't want to fall into that category, so I made it all pretty for you." Two junior doctors get super quiet when she said this. They were not referring to her, but having even one patient hear them was uncalled for. They got taken outside to a lounge and they got chewed out. We couldn't hear what they were saying, but we heard yelling from a room I know was the staff lounge. My mom asked to keep the buttons and beads and her staples until the next day. Then, after a steady parade of people asking to see her work, her doctor made her take them out. Every doctor who came in was laughing. The two junior doctors apparently spent hours on projects no one wanted to do. Man, is it just me, or have these stories today just been, really out of the ordinary? I mean, at least it keeps me from burning out. Well, I just ended up cutting two more stories, so let's just jump into the question. Married men of Reddit, what was the dumb thing you did during your dating phase that you can't believe your wife ended up overlooking? I turned her down when she suggested we go on a date. Read as, I'm super awkward. So I was working for Starbucks. She was a regular customer. I was new in town and noticed her a couple times. She was a regular customer, and we got to some small talk, chatting about places to eat. She said there's an amazing taco place down the road we should go to sometime. I misheard her, thinking she said, you should go sometime. I replied with, I'll definitely check it out. I handed her a drink, and she left very awkwardly. She was back the next day, and against all odds, I was able to clear up the misunderstanding, and I wrote my number on her Starbucks cup. We went to that taco place for our first date, and she was right. It was amazing. 3 years married and 2 kids later, really glad she saw through my awkwardness. You know, I kind of find it painful when people throw away their chances of getting a date sometimes. Because I'm just like, you don't even have to do anything. They are presenting themselves to you, and you still can't take it. Whereas in my situation, I have no problem even asking anybody out, but I just don't ever meet anybody. I forgot her name once when introducing her to a friend. This was maybe a month into our relationship. I was all like, hey, and by the way, this is, my girlfriend. Yeah, that can get pretty awkward. But to be fair, in a lot of cases, when you really think about it, you don't have to use people's names that often. I almost never even say a person's name to them. The only time I ever say their name is when talking about them to somebody else. So not my story, but my parents. So some backstory. My dad has a brother who's only a couple years older. Growing up, they'd commonly try to steal food off each other's plates just to be a-holes to each other. This was remedied by plate guarding and defensive maneuvers with utensils if hands got too close. On my parents' first date, my mom reached for something to try off my dad's plate, and he instinctively stabbed her hand with his fork. It drew blood and everything. He was obviously mortified. Glad my mom was crazy enough to keep dating, marry, and procreate with the fork stabber. Yeah, I usually have to wonder what's going through people's head when something happens like that. Because a lot of people get the impression that's like, if I see any sign of a red flag, or like, you know, any little thing that might cause me to stop liking this person, fine, I'll just leave them. There's plenty of other people out there. But then there's also a level of like, you can tolerate, you can, you know, get to know them, give them the benefit of the doubt. My uncle didn't call his now wife for over a year after they first met, and he got her number. He kept the paper she wrote it on, and ended up finding it and calling her, asking if she still remembered him, and was still interested in going on a date. Does this mean that those girls that I gave my number to years ago might still come around? I guess we'll find out. We drank a lot on our second date, Ubered home. The next day we went back to get his car, and it wasn't there. He was so devastated. He'd just bought it recently, and it was stolen. We filed a police report, took forever, and just generally sucked. We walked to his friend's house nearby, and there was his car, perfectly unstolen. He drank so much he forgot he moved it before our date. Now, once in a while, when we're trying to find our car in the grocery store parking lot or wherever, one of us will say, "It's stolen, call the police." Hey, I think we've all had a bit of a freak out at one point or another, thinking that our car was stolen because we forgot where we parked it. When we were dating, my husband and I were holding hands when he had to cough. Instead of letting go of my hand and covering his mouth, he continued to hold on, brought it up to his mouth, and coughed into my hand. It was a dry cough. If it was anything more, I would have run. Well, it looks like that's all we've got for tonight. But yeah, this video seemed a little strange for some reason. I don't know why, but my voice sounds a little deeper than usual. Nothing's wrong with me or anything, I'm not sick. And the stories were kind of weird too, so I mean, I don't even know what to say about it. I'll just talk to you guys tomorrow. Can you stand up? Alright. Come here. Come on down. Okay, come over here. Alright, right there. Now stand up. Yeah, you're doing it. Yummy. I'll just put that on your head. Now you got cheese on your head.